The three mouse pointers in Excel are the fat cross, the thin cross, and the arrow, or four-headed arrow. Basically, we need to be aware of this because depending on the shape of the mouse pointer in Excel, when we drag the mouse, it'll do something totally different. Let's take a look at the three. The fat cross is used to select a cell or a range of cells. If you want to get the mouse to turn into a fat cross, you position the mouse pointer anywhere in the active cell or the active range that is not on the bottom right corner or on the edge. The thin cross is used to copy or fill a range of cells. To get the mouse pointer to change into a thin cross, we'll position the mouse pointer on the bottom right edge of the active cell or selected range. And the arrow, or four-headed arrow, is used to move a cell or a range of cells. Let's take a look at exactly what's involved. For example, if we had the days Sunday, Monday, Tuesday listed in the range A1 to A3, we could select all three by using the fat cross and dragging the mouse down to select it. Then we let up the mouse button and position the mouse pointer in the bottom right corner of this range to fill the range. I could then drag it down and it would fill in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc. Same thing would go with a group of numbers. If I wanted to number 1 to 30, highlight with the fat cross, fill the range with the thin cross. I only drag it down to 15. We could do the same thing with payroll. Let's say we had a payday that was on October the 2nd every Friday of the month, every Friday. And so October 2nd, October 9th, October 16th, we could use the fat cross to select the range of these three, and then move the mouse pointer down to the bottom right to get the fill handle and drag it down, and Excel will automatically know the dates and put every Friday. It knows how many days are in each month and everything to do like that. Let's take a look at a payroll example. Let's say we were going to calculate payroll and we had gone to the trouble of creating this fantastic formula that will calculate regular hours using an if statement by looking at the hours worked. If they worked over 40 hours, it knows how many of those are regular by this formula. And if we did the same thing with overtime hours, we could determine that as well with a formula. And our gross pay, we're taking the formula of how many hours they work, regular hours times the hourly rate, plus the overtime hours times the hourly rate times 1.5. Now, once we got these formulas in the first three cells, we can use the fat cross to select the range, and then take the thin cross, drag it down, and we've completed them for everybody. If we had 1,000 employees, we'd drag it down 1,000 rows. You could see how this could save an awful lot of time if you get a good understanding of the fat cross and the thin cross, and then the four-headed arrow. Let's take a look at a budget, for example. Let's say we wanted to start with a budget for these budget categories, and we wanted to fill the range across for the entire year, let's say to December. And then we want to go back and make some adjustments and say, during the summer months, we're going to have higher power bills. So we need to put $250 there, $350 here, $250 here, and maybe $175 for September. Probably May would need a $175 as well. But our gas bill would probably be higher in the winter months. So we may go to November, put $150 for gas, $180 for December. Might even come up and put like $220 for January. As you can see, we're able to copy the base numbers there. We might even move the rest of these down a little bit. But anyways, you can see then if we've got our sum formula here that sums the range B2 to B9 for January, if I were to use the thin cross, I could copy this across as well, and it would tell you exactly what the total budget amounts were for each month. One other thing that we could do, if we wanted to create a chart in Excel, we could use the fat cross to select that range, and then simply click on the chart button to create us a nice chart that takes the various budget amounts and puts them on a pie chart so that we can easily see where our money's going. Matter of fact, once you have a chart like this, you can actually click on it and pull an important piece out if you wanted to emphasize this and discuss it with someone. And finally, you may want to do an amortization schedule, which will calculate a loan payment and tell you how much of each payment goes to pay interest and how much goes to pay principal. I've already done the formulas for each of these cells. We're going to be actually doing this as an assignment in the course. But I've already used the payment function here to calculate the amount of the payment. We can, of course, change this to a more reasonable interest rate of 5.5% today. And then, basically, I'll use the fat cross to select these three cells and then use the thin cross to pull it down. And this will copy the range down. I can actually do that on all four let the fat cross select all four in the range and use the thin cross to pull this down. I could go all the way down to 360. As you can see in this example, the first payment of $567.79 would be composed of $109.46 that went to pay down the to pay down the principal, and $458.33 actually was interest that was charged. Of course, that brought the balance down from $100,000 down to $99,890.54, and therefore the interest will be less next month. It'll only be $457.83. Since we're paying the same monthly payment, the principal amount will go up a little bit from $109.46 to $109.96. And of course, if we wanted to do this for a 30-year period, for a 30-year mortgage, we could simply take the fat cross and select it, and then take the thin cross like I'm doing here and pull it all the way down to 360. Oops, I went too far. There we are. And of course, we should have a zero balance at the end of 30 years. Hope that's helpful to kind of demonstrate what you might do with the fat cross and the thin cross. Let's go now and take a quick look as if you wanted to move something. Let's say I had the names here and I wanted to move them. I would use the fat cross to select them, and I would use the four-headed arrow. I'm actually on the Mac on this one, so I have a little hand that appears here in the Mac version, but it'll be a four-headed arrow or just a standard arrow. Depending on if you have the latest version with Office 2007, you're going to have a four-headed arrow. Prior to 2002 on Windows, you'll have just a arrow. But as you can see, you can move these around that way. So you want to make sure that if you don't have the four-headed arrow, if you're on the edge of the entire box but not in the right corner, you'll be moving. If you're in the bottom right corner, you're going to be filling the range or copying. And if you're in the middle somewhere, the fat cross actually selects. Hopefully that'll be helpful to you to understand the difference here early on, so that when you get to your assignments, it'll make it a lot easier.